Greetings and welcome back to Switch to Linux. We are here talking today about the digital data rot, and we have our supporters panel on. So far we have Dan on and we have Quint on. Let me share the screen and unmute them so they can say hello now. Greetings, how's it going?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Tom.
So, anybody supporting me on Patreon or Think Life Media, feel free to jump on. The links are posted over there. If you want, I can add you to the email queue as well. So, with that being said, how's everybody doing?
I'm fine. My last day of school is tomorrow.
Oh, sweet. So you're celebrating. Woohoo!
School's out for
Well, I've had
summer.
finals this whole week.
Yeah. That's
I like finals this whole
our
week.
like it's so weird to hear kids say we have finals all week. I never saw a final until college, because back then they didn't do that kind
I
of
didn't
stuff.
have finals in middle school. I didn't start getting the school that I go to is a private school. I didn't start getting graded until middle school. That's just their thing.
Yeah, one of them. That's kind of one of them schools. I got to readjust my camera a little bit there. One of them schools that I'm reading about on my outdoor philosophy series right now, right? Grades are bad. Grades are bad,
Grades
not
are
really.
bad.
How you doing, Dan?
An issue
Dan.
with what they would do is they would still grade your work. Like they would give you like a percentage grade, but it wouldn't go into like any sort of grade book or anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dan, when was the first final you remember having?
The first final?
Yeah, did you guys have finals in high school or?
Yes and no. The final, you could still, if you showed up and went to class every day and did the work, you still could get a passing grade. If you really wanted a grade that would get you somewhere, you could get a C minus just for showing up and doing the work. But if you wanted to get that A or A minus, for credits to go to college and stuff like that, you had to pass the final too.
Yeah, I don't remember us ever having finals anywhere. All right,
The work was a lot harder than it is today.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Our work is not very hard. It's just a test, basically. It starts at 10:30 and we leave at 12:15.
Yeah. All right.
Half days all day.
Comments. We have Charles Erickson on comments. Hello to you, Chad V. Greetings there. Well, if it isn't that a good thing if online data is rotting away from the Facebook perspective? Yes. Facebook, our data rots from Facebook. That'd be a good problem. Unfortunately, that's not really happening. Let's see. Snap has 2 finals tomorrow. Well, good luck to you, Snap. All right, World of Linux. It's been a long time since I've been on my Google account. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I think I still have 1 or 2 Google Docs I share with somebody for keeping track of all the projects we've done, but it's not my preference. Let's see. Keegan. Hello there, Keegan. Greetings. KittyCam is now online. Even on computers from 2003, KDE5 Plasma works great. It's very efficient on RAM. Yep. Supersonic Boy, what's up, boy? Gnostics on. Just start with a 5 terabyte drive, and when it starts to get full, buy another one. Problem solved. That simple. Yeah. Need less Google services in my life. Yes, we all need less Google services. Vince will be on shortly. We're gonna see if he jumps on in the next few minutes before we start. He actually sent out this article, so give him a few minutes to jump on. Let's see. Play next games. Hello, Keith Heaton. Greetings to you. Blank expression. That's a very blank expression. And he says, I wish I found Linux when I was this kid's age. That message is for Quint, who's not here. Greetings, Jesse. How's it going?
How's it going, guys?
Hi, Jesse.
Good. Very good.
Hi.
Let's see. Oh, and a brief update for you guys that were on the live stream yesterday. I'm not sure what was up with that USB drive because as soon as I ended the stream, I reinstalled Peppermint and it reinstalled in like 2 minutes.
You know what I did this? I think I did the same thing you were trying to demonstrate. You were trying to actually take an ISO and put it on one USB drive and use it as a live drive, and then use the install from that to put it on another USB drive.
Yeah, that's what I usually do. In this case, I was actually cutting out the middleman and using VirtualBox to install. So I don't know if it was the individual port or if it was just something else in the system. Because
VirtualBox don't work that great.
Well, I did it the exact same way as I did the video, the exact same protocol. Nothing changed at all, and it just installed in 3 minutes. My working theory is that when I got the drive, it was formatted as FAT32 with their software crap on it. I put it into the other system, I wiped it, reformatted it as ext4, and that might be the only thing that changed. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, this is a full edition of Linux Mint on it, and this is the hard drive.
Yep.
So you can work off of this.
Yeah.
What I just did is I put the ISO on one disk, and it went from one USB to the other direct.
Yeah, and that's why I did that series of videos over a couple days, just to indicate that yes, you can use a USB drive on a full Linux distro that's not a live key. Go ahead, Quint.
Was it one of these SanDisk drives that has all the crap installed on it when you first buy it?
Yeah, that's what I was using.
One of these.
The first thing I do is I format these as FAT32.
One of them.
Yeah, these they come with all sorts of. There's like all sorts of junk on
There's
there.
a disk encryptor program that comes with the SanDisk ones.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I think you got to wipe that out. Greetings, Vince. How's it going?
FAT32. What's that?
Yeah, it's fat.
I don't think I trust the disk encryptor. I don't think I would trust the disk encryptor on here, anyways.
Yeah.
I've never used it.
Right.
You can just do encryption in no disk, I think.
Hey guys, just also a special hello to Paul Sear. Hi, Paul.
Hi Vince.
Hello, Paul.
Hi Dan.
Paul's talking about bacon. Oh man, bacon.
Oh yeah, we were talking about bacon on Steve's stream the other day.
Oh, please don't. I've actually been fasting for the day, and so I'm not super hungry, but I am on my 3rd mug of herbal tea and lots of water. But man, bacon sounds so good, and I have a whole bunch of it down in the freezer. All right, well, I think we have Vince showed up, and I was waiting for him because he actually sent this article to me today. So go ahead and introduce our topic. We'll be talking about digital data rot. And so this is an interesting article from The Conversation. And so you guys, I will drop it here in the live chattiness so you can follow along the article if you'd like. So The Conversation talks about your internet data is rotting, which was a great thing if your data was on Facebook, but not always, depending on where you want. So initial thoughts, everybody. Give me some initial perspectives. Quint, you're on right now on the camera view, so go ahead. Initial perspectives of data rotting.
So I'm not sure what type, if this is actually, I didn't get a chance to read the article, so I don't really know anything about it. Is this just digital? I assume this is just like implied. It's not the actual drives, right?
Well, they touch on that a little bit, but they're primarily talking about the Facebook debacle where they lost 5 million file uploads. We put our data inside of these free services, Google services, Facebook, all these types of things. And then as the companies fall out of favor and they get traded back and forth, left and right, data just ends up missing. And oftentimes we rely on that data being there. And so that's kind of what we're talking about.
So, okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah.
So,
Jesse.
one thing,
yeah, hold on, Quint. Jesse.
Well, I'm just seeing the article for the first time, so trying to scan through it. And most of what I see is to talking about like defunct services, right? And
Mostly.
yeah. So, I mean, given that, if you're not backing up your own data, you don't own your data, right?
Yeah.
That's my initial thought right now, and I'm going to continue reading here, and I'll put together a more cohesive thought on top of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. All right, and Dan.
Well, I guess data rot and it completely deteriorating is a lot better than having it entangled with somebody else's data, which all of a sudden you could become somebody that just got out of prison. You're on the sex offenders list and everything else with your name attached to it. So if it just rots and goes away,
could be a good thing, depending on who you are. Yeah.
It could be a good thing. I'm playing devil's advocate here with this one.
Absolutely.
Again, I have data in my systems here that I go back to Windows 98 days. And, I got emails that have been run through Thunderbird that Thunderbird has saved since 2005.
Yeah.
So, it's your job to take care of your own data.
Yeah, and I think that is just so important. So I'm thinking about this in terms of online services. Is probably the first service that I used quite extensively is back about a decade ago. I was really big into geocaching, right? And I was I think the number 6 geocacher in the whole state I lived in at the time. So, I'd go out with the number 1 guy. We'd go into, one day we went into, is it American Fork, Utah? And we picked up 98 geocaches in one day. Some people were like, oh, 100 geocaches, that's a hard record. Yeah, we picked up in one day, 2 of us, And so I think about that, but I haven't actually, I think the last time I logged onto the geocaching site was maybe 2016. I really haven't done any intensive geocaching since, 2012, 2013. But all of that data is still there, allegedly. If I log into the system, I kind of see. But I know for sure that I used my web server to keep my data stats there. And so I'm pretty sure I've been careful to sometimes keep that data up on the servers, but I may not have thoroughly kept the data on the servers. And so anybody that goes into that page, it's going to call a page not found if that data is not there. And so that's the type of stuff we're looking about. Of course, in that case, that's kind of me managing some data. But that's kind of what we're talking about, is that loss of data. Vince, what's your thoughts on this article before we start?
This is mainly aimed at anyone who has ever created anything online, I suppose. Just making sure that you've got some sort of a backup. And when I read it, it made me think that I wish I had backed up my old GeoCities website. Put your hand up if you ever had a GeoCities website.
Me? And I got mine. I have mine. I actually did save a copy of mine.
I lost mine.
Yep, I saved a copy of mine. Yep. Quint, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, so one thing is that I watch these videos occasionally just to see what they have to say, but I watch those videos, like how to start a blog for these professional bloggers. And I know that none of the stuff they say is true, because they say all sorts of stuff about use Bluehost. But the one thing they do say that is true, that I agree with, is do not start on a free blogging site.
Yep.
And it's so basically, so this doesn't happen.
Now, I actually have...
I'm sure
2 or 3 on Blogger that I think are still there last I knew.
Yeah, but still something could happen and all that data could be lost. And so that's what their point was. Something could happen, the company could shut down, or all the data could get breached and lost. And then all your blog posts are gone. So
yeah. You drinking beer, man? No. No. Quint's a good kid. He's not going to do that.
What I kind of also get is that, much like I've commented on social media before, if you're using something for free, you're not actually getting it for free. It just so happens if you're not paying for your product, that's because you are the product.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You're what somebody else is making money off of. You're the product being sold. Yeah. That's kind of what I see, like, as what the article points to, is these services that we've known to be in use for free who are now eliminating our data because, hey, it's old and we're not really using it.
Or there's case, was it Flickr? Or I think it was Flickr recently, right? They just basically said, hey, we got too much stuff on here, so if you're not using a paid account, anything over X number of photos you have is just going to get deleted. So that's the type of thing we're talking about. And now, how many people have relied on Facebook? They've snapped all their photos and like, oh, I'll throw it up on Facebook, and never saved a copy of the photos for themselves. Well, there's some discussion right now that says, is Facebook actually going to be around for a lot longer? And so it raises those questions. So if it's not, and you don't have a backup of all those photos, you've lost it all. Now, of course, if
I have a backup.
Yeah, backup of everything.
When I used to use Google Photos. Yeah, when I used to use Google Photos, before when I moved, that was the one service that was really hard to move off of because I had so many photos in there. Because it came free with my phone. Yeah. And so it took forever to download this. Oh, hold on 1 second. Someone's
Yeah, so
calling me.
Gnostic says GeoCities was a cool site way back when. Yeah, last year backed up and archived all my old floppies from the 80s and 90s. Most were not corrupted. Online data, nothing worth backup except for emails. Yeah, and that's raises a good question. Like, I actually have, I was doing as I was going through my office and scanning in my files and things, going through my college files, I actually had, and this is actually something the article raises. Well, you know, I'm going to tell the story when we get to it in the article. So let's jump over to the article there. So, they're talking here mostly about this migration of MySpace. So they talk about how MySpace, while it was Facebook's place, right, the number one site, and we think about, you know, Facebook would never go away. Well, maybe it will. MySpace did. That was estimated valuation of about $12 billion, and that's a decade ago. That's unheard of. And so they lost it and lost it and lost it. And then they end up being sold, I think they said 3 or 5 times over a 12-year period of time, 3 changes. So 3 different companies, I think 4 different companies, 3 different purchases over a period of time. And of course, this last one, just recently, they lost like 500 million updates. Well, who was using it? Well, some musicians were using it to store their data. And it raises the question with the online services of, we put this data up there and we rely on that data being there, and that data is not always there. So perspectives on that. Dan, let's go to you first.
Well, again, your data is your responsibility. If you're going to upload it to a website, at least keep a copy for yourself, keep it on hand, and then have one off-site at a friend's house. It's simple backup maneuvers.
Yep, absolutely. Jesse. Oh, go ahead, Jen. Finish up.
I'm finished.
Okay, Jesse.
Next.
Yeah, I mean, we can't rely on any service to be around forever. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. I mean, Facebook's the king right now, and the reason they're the king is because they're buying everything up. So, I mean, for that reason, I do think they're going to be around for now. They're going to be around for a lot longer, and I do believe that your data will, I guess I can't use the word secure, but your data will be there, and will be there for a long time because they're very adamant on being up in your privacy anyway. So they're not going to delete anything. I see them as being at a size and having a business mindset that anybody that stands in their way, they're just going to buy them up anyway. So they'll be there for a while, but that doesn't mean you should be relying on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Quint.
Yeah, basically, this basically relates to what I was saying earlier before someone called me, that I had all my data stored in Google Photos, or all my photos and everything. And then when I decided to switch to all this Nextcloud stuff, which I didn't actually end up uploading them to Nextcloud because it's just way too many photos, I downloaded them all, and it took forever. But when it finally finished, it probably took a total of like 2 hours to download all the photos that were in there. I was so relieved, and I felt like my data is not in here. My data is actually protected. What if something happens to Google Photos and some hack gets discovered, like Google Plus or whatever, and it's all gone? And I love taking photos. That's my thing.
Yeah, yeah.
This raises another question in the Huawei thing in China. Now, suppose you're in China and you have all your photos on Google services. Well, Google's no longer doing business with Huawei in China. You might have a problem if you're in China accessing your stuff.
Yep, absolutely. Vince, thoughts on this?
I think one of the key points, actually Jesse touched on it a bit earlier, is if you're using one of these services, you've got to ask yourself, I mean, these guys are all businesses, so what is the economic incentive for them to keep your data? I mean, if it's to track you with a cookie so they can sell you ads while you're surfing the net, then that's your incentive. But if it's just to store your music, if it's to store your photos, what is their incentive to keep that there for you?
Correct. Absolutely. And that's the thing. So if it's like Facebook has a lesser chance of losing the data than a Google Drive would maybe, because I don't think Google Drive is used for ad tracking, but Facebook, like everything is used for ad tracking. So you get that.
I have to use all that stuff at school, so I'm really familiar with how all that stuff works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'm sure you don't use Google Drive. You've never really used it all that much.
No, I think, like I said, I have 1 or 2 spreadsheets from projects working with other people in there because that's kind of what happens to them. But no, I've never actually used it for anything. Never used that. Never used Photos. I did use the tool with some of my main business account, and they still have not been able to track anything down because, you know. All right, so then this raises the question of what we were talking about before. So preserving all of the data is you'd like taking photos, Quint, and we like doing all our different data. They become bigger and bigger. Like I remember when I got my 2 megapixel camera, and you know I had this card. This card was massive, man. It was like 32 megabytes. And that 32 megabyte card could hold, you know, a few hundred photos. Well, I mean, now I think I can hold, 5 photos in 32 megabytes? I mean, so data gets bigger. Now, the advantage is the cost for the data storage is going down at the same rate. You know, like, I just bought those 32. I wanted to get smaller USB drives. I couldn't find anything smaller, and those 32 gigabyte ones were still only $8. So storage is getting cheap enough that we can handle this kind of stuff. But then the question is, are you doing real things yourself to protect your data, or are you relying on these other services? So we already said, you know, don't rely on other services, particularly for important data. So you want to make a backup of data for yourself. Now, this raises the question, how do you do it? And Dan had that best suggestion. Make redundant backups. Keep one at your house, one at your friend's house. Now, I keep one at my house and one in a bank vault because safety deposit boxes are cheap. Actually, if you have a credit union, sometimes they give you free safety deposit boxes. So keeping a copy in there, definitely an option as well. So taking all of your data and having copies and having real copies for yourself. Jesse, you want to say something?
Yeah, well, I was just going to reinforce you on that one. Is I'm a big fan of safety deposit boxes. And I'm very adamant about keeping my very important stuff on a USB stick in a safety deposit box. You know, in the event of, I mean, you can't rely on everybody. Some data is just too sensitive to be sharing on all kinds of different services. No matter what your OPSEC or your particular encryption is, you just don't want to share it on the internet, right? And you never know what happens at home. So it's very, like, for me, it's my cryptocurrency wallets and a few other sensitive documents I keep in a safety deposit box, and I feel that's very important.
Yep, absolutely. And so this raises the question that Mitchell set up here. He backed up all his floppy drives in the 80s and 90s. Nothing was corrupted yet. So that is an interesting thing because what happens is the technology can shift. So I had all these things that I didn't really know where all these disks were, and I encountered these floppy disks. Do you think of all of the computers I have in this office, I can read a floppy disk? Nope. So, I'll probably, if I need to, I can probably go down to the local college down here and either A, find a computer that can support such a thing, or B, buy a computer from their surplus store that has such a thing. But it raises these questions of sometimes the technology changes. What if you're taking all of your data? Now, the good thing is that's really long term. I mean, we're talking about files and stuff I had from college. I graduated college. How long ago? It was a long time ago. I'm getting old. It was a long time ago. Of course, floppies were the thing. And I didn't look at those drives for a while. Now, some of that data is actually got backed up onto CDs. So the CDs I can still pop in a drive, but even now, a lot of your computers aren't coming with a CD. So are you storing it on media that transfers and moves with the technology? So if you're an Apple user, even if you've stored things on USB, now you have to go out and buy a separate adapter because you can't take your USB drive and plug it directly into your Apple. So there, you got a thing like Jesse's displaying there, right?
Oops, my camera's off.
Yep.
If you really want, you can actually put a CD drive or they're Blu-ray drives now.
Yep.
But if you really want one and you have a tower, you can add one. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I mean, I have one in my tower here. In fact, that's the reason I didn't upgrade my case, is I can't even find a case that's cool that has a DVD bay. It's like...
That's a problem that I have too, and I'm less apt to install an optical drive or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for a spare 5 1/4 slots where I can put IC docks for hot swapping drives. So when I want to transfer data, like if I want to go from my NAS to my computer, but I got to transfer like 100 gigabytes, Never mind gigabit networking. Let's just grab that disk and shove it in my machine.
Yeah, well, if you check my video from yesterday in the description there, I actually have a link to mine, which is it's a 5 1/4 IC that supports a 3.5 and a 2.5 drive. So that's why I got that one. So it's $40, I think.
Nice.
I bought a new drive, and it came with a sample of this new M disk that came out. I don't know how many people know what an M disk is.
Yeah, tell us. That's interesting. Yeah, good.
My reader does those, but I've never used one.
You've never used one? It's the same as a regular Blu-ray. It's the same as a regular Blu-ray, but it's constructed more durable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing has a 100-year warranty right on the back of it. They will replace it if it's defective in any way in 100 years.
Yeah, but do they give you free data recovery if it fails?
I don't know about that, but
do they guarantee the company's still going to be around in 100 years?
There's another fun question.
Verbatim.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that doesn't mean verbatim either. No.
The M stands for millennium. The warranty may be for 100 years, but they expect the data on the disc to last for a millennium.
Should be called. Okay, well, all right, maybe.
That's false advertising.
They may be pie in the sky stuff, but
when the space aliens come and dig us out of World War III, they can collect our data. Awesome.
Chris Barnett, explaining computers in the UK, he actually did a YouTube video on one of these. He froze it, he left it out in the sunlight and everything else, and compared it to a standard Blu-ray disc, and the difference was night and day to the damage that happened to the standard discs, where these survived every scenario.
Sweet.
Short of melting it.
Scrolls.
Yeah.
So this is sort of back to the topic about the computer. So
you put all your data on this thing, and then you put this in your will.
So this is back to the topic of computers with CD drives. And this is the only computer in the house that has a DVD drive in it.
Yeah.
Everybody else has MacBooks in this.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's an old laptop that we have that has one, but everybody else in this house has MacBooks.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do really like an idea that somebody else had said when I was talking about this before. How frequently do I use it? Not very much. It would be economical to just not get the drive and just buy an external one that stays in my box of computer parts over there, and when I need it, pull it out. That's an option.
I don't really use this all that much, but the couple times I have, it's been really helpful. Like when I wanted to rip a CD or a DVD, it's been really helpful.
I still buy CDs, I still buy DVDs, and so having the drive is a useful thing. Vince, any thoughts on media and stuff like this from your perspective?
Well, I keep an external DVD drive just for that very reason. I've still got movies that I've got on DVD, and I'm the same. I buy CDs as well because I still think that the quality of the CDs with the lossless technology is still better than MP3s you buy on stores. I know, and I know there are FLACs and whatever formats as well, but I like having the physical CD still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you like reading the boxes, things like that. Let's see. Ricky jumped on a while back. Hello, Ricky. How's it going there? People with whim and mercy on the online companies. It's their data. Yeah, JK Online. It's their data. Yeah. Also used Google Photos years ago, but I only had a tablet. Then I downloaded them all and never used Google Photos again. May donate $1 to Patreon because I have Patreon. So why not? Well, thank you, World of Linux. Awesome. I appreciate that. I guess I need to get a NAS. Yeah, so I run a NAS. I know Jesse runs a NAS. Anyone else here run a NAS? Quint, you should run a NAS.
My NAS.
No, I've been considering it. Should I run a NAS? Like, I don't know what I would put on there. Is the thing, because I have
photos.
All the stuff that's important, like really important, is on the computer. All the stuff I need to share with people is on the Nextcloud. So I'm like, what do I need to put on there?
There you go, Jesse. What's your NAS used for? I mean, of course, only tell us the legal things.
Oh yeah, no, everything about it is 100%. Don't want to talk about it, right? No, but no, it's a fun little project. It stores a lot of, movies, music, all that kind of stuff. I have a massive music library. It stores all my backups, things like that, and it stores it using a RAID. Well, right now it's a RAID 1 setup, kind of per se.
Yeah.
So it's also for redundancy, for safety as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just touching on, you mentioned, we're talking about floppy disks and that's kind of the reason I held up this little gizmo, was because it does SATA as well as ID 3.5 and 2.5 IDE, right? So there's actually been a couple occasions, Dan's got one there.
There you go.
There's been a couple occasions where I needed to run a floppy disk, right? I was going through some of my old stuff in boxes and had some floppy disk and some old IDE drives, but I can plug a floppy drive, one of the more modern ones that use the IDE interface, and plug that straight into this thing and be able to read an old school floppy disk on a brand new computer. It's kind of sweet.
Yeah, I'll have to get me one of those.
I saw. I think it was LGR. He basically took he had like a floppy disk to USB thing. He took a USB-C to USB adapter and plugged it into his phone, and it mounted as a removable drive on Android.
Oh yeah, I saw that, and he started playing games on it. It was fun.
Yeah.
That's pretty epic. So as far as my NAS, I of course keep videos that I download. Mostly a lot of what I have is video sermons that I have. There's, they don't care if you copy those. I have a large collection of sermons on the one hand, music on the other hand, and then photos. Any of that kind of important stuff is all on my NAS. Again, I set mine up as all with a RAID 1, so it's basically 2 hard drives that are mirror of each other. One of them goes, you got the other one still. And then, of course, anything that's important, like photos, anything that's important is also on a secondary computer that backs up a hard copy of everything that's critically important that I also need to keep offline. So that's what I use my NAS for.
Didn't you buy the actual computer that your NAS is on for $5 because it didn't have a power cord?
No, it was $90. It was like a $150.
I thought it was like really cheap because it didn't have a power cord.
Yeah, it was, and they were trying to sell it for like $110 or something. I talked them down even more. I talked them down the price of a power adapter, and I had one. So it's like,
hey man, I gotta buy a power cord for this thing.
Yeah, well, I actually did the other thing. We were talking last week about needing a tablet for an e-reader stuff, and so I found this Samsung A7 or whatever, which is a really crappy tablet. You can't put Lineage on it and stuff. But I got it for $80 because they didn't have the documentation, they didn't have the power cord, all that kind of stuff. I'd throw away anyway. And what do I need another Android power cord laying around for?
See if you can find in a couple of years, just see if you can find the Samsung Galaxy Tab S2 that supports Lineage.
Yeah, there's a few that do, but I wanted something that stays stock just to test books on a stock device. So it's one of those things that will never leave the house because my network locks it down. So. All right.
See, for my NAS, what I did was I bought some used server equipment, right? Or if it was a workstation, it would have been a heavy-duty workstation. But I grabbed the Dell T410 with dual Xeons, and it cost me 400 Canadian rupees, right? And I even with that, for another 60 Canadian rupees, I was able to upgrade the processors to basically the maximum you could throw in the board. So I have 12 usable cores and 24 threads. So I'm able to spin up a bunch of VMs on my NAS as well and use it, for serving a lot of other things besides only being a NAS, right?
The other thing I have to say about that real quick, Quint, before I think of it, I have to move to Canada now because rupees is a real currency. I mean, Zelda fan here. Anyway, go ahead, Quint.
Dell actually sells a pretty decently priced server. I think it's the T30. Mm-hmm. And you can pick it even up cheaper used.
Yeah.
I think it's the Dell T30. It has Xeons in it, and it was like, I think new it's like $400, but if you get it used, it's like really cheap.
Yeah, they use the same model numbers for all their machines over years. Like my T410 is 9 years old now, and they still make a T410 just with newer hardware, right? It's just a model number that they use. So I'm using X5675 processors in mine if you want to look those up. They're 2008, 2009. So 10 years old now.
This computer is a 2011 Lenovo ThinkStation, and it's still working pretty well. It has in it and stuff.
We have a couple questions here. Helium-filled drives, are they more reliable for the long term? Anybody have comment on that? I don't.
Don't know.
They're supposed to be better, but I don't know for sure. Which storage medium is best for long-term archival purposes? I would say right now going with a USB hard drive, because though the USB ports are changing, the technology is still there, and if you see something shift, you'll never get to a case, unless it's going to be Apple, where they completely cut the thing completely off and do away with one form of technology altogether. So if you start to see the technology shift, you should get in there and make backups. So like I should have downloaded those disks and pulled the data off of there when I saw that floppy disks were no longer in vogue. So that's what I would do right now.
I would say anything SSD right now for long term, but that's given that you don't use it daily. That's given you plug it in, store your data, and unplug it and leave it alone.
Mm-hmm. Punch cards written in Pig Latin. There you go. That was the old computer programming. How accessible are they?
Somebody said earlier.
Yep, good.
Somebody said earlier, put it on Stone.
On what?
What was that? Mac 1130 380. Write it in Stone for the long term.
I don't know. All my old floppy disks seem to work pretty good still, so it's not a bad choice still.
Yeah,
I have
all
some
my
floppy
old hard drives
disks
are still just fine.
It'll start reading into them, some, and all of a sudden just sit there and go ka-chunk, 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 like it's got bad sectors on them.
Yeah,
a lot of my floppy disks are like from the late 90s.
Yeah.
Don't you love that sound though?
Yeah.
Feels authentic.
Actually, I've had USB hard disks die on me as well, so you've got to be careful with that.
Yeah. I mean,
I've heard that too. I haven't.
All can for sure. I just think that your best approach for backup is to have multiple redundant copies. That's your best option.
Yeah.
One dies, you replace that copy real quick.
I mean, we understand that, but it's amazing how a non-technical person just wouldn't even back up at all. Like, I take my wife as an example. If I wasn't backing up her stuff, she would just have it all sitting there on a computer.
Yeah, and that's how a lot of people are. And then this is where the tech companies came in with a lot of the the services to make it easy and convenient. And then in the ease and the convenience, we've relied on them, and then MySpace happens.
Well, people get in this rut where they actually get a bunch of files in their computers and stuff like that, and they don't organize them. So they never bother to take it to the step to back it up because it's not even organized.
Oh yeah, it's just too hard.
And that's why I don't like smartphones for everything. It's just one giant blob of data that you don't have organized. So it takes real intentional work to take your phone at the end of the day or end of the week and organize the data. Pull the data off for security, organize it.
And then with your smartphones, the apps on the screen, you got to play bloody murder trying to move them around where you want them to stay.
Yeah. So even
this is where OCD is king.
Yeah, even in the article here, they say lots of copies keep stuff safe. That's the best thing. Have that extra redundancy. Those lots of copies, the lots of tools, lots of other things, and then just keep an eye on the technology. If the technology is starting to shift, make sure you go in and have different copies. Like I've had this discussion with a friend of mine. Looking at, I was trying to think of a good example of it. What happens when file formats change? The best example I come up with is actually, and this is actually more nefarious, is if some small standard changes. So GIMP. A GIMP file made in GIMP 2.10 cannot be opened in GIMP 2.8. So backwards compatibility is a big problem. Now, of course, JPEGs, PNGs, bitmaps, things like that. I have old files going back a long time, and they're all generally just fine, But with that being said, the idea is you want to make sure that not only do you have the files, you want to have the ability to access those files. So like I used to do a lot of things a while back with, was it called Print Shop? I think Border Runs Print Shop, which I may or may not still have a copy of that laying around. All of those files that I have, can't do anything with them. I mean, unless there's some Linux application that opens them. So that's the other thing to keep in mind.
Well, there's
Jesse,
a little bit on the bigger side here. Windows can't really read ext4 either. So if you're going to plan on using your files on a Windows machine, you best put it on an NSTF formatted drive. So
use FAT, because FAT can be read by Linux, Mac, and Windows. So I use FAT. For mine. Yeah, FAT32. They can be read by.
Yeah, I always format my flash drives as FAT, even if they're going to be used on Linux, just in case I have to put a file on my Mac or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. Yep. The thing is, I keep Linux installers on my flash drives, and so I'll just plug a random flash drive into my computer just to see if there's anything on it, and I'll get them into my Mac, and I'll get the message that says this drive is not readable by this computer.
Yep. Getting more difficult to find decent 5 1/4 drives. Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, are you talking 5 1/4 floppies or 5 1/4 CDs? I don't think I have any 5 1/4s laying around. FAT32 cannot handle a file bigger than 4 gigabytes. Yes, this is true. If you have files bigger than 4 gigabytes, don't do FAT32. But if you have 4 gigabyte files, break them things up anyway.
If you really need a USB stick to go across multiple platforms, though, NTFS is a good option if you need to transfer large files on a disk like that. And the reason is because most Linux distros are now coming with NTFS drivers or controllers already embedded and not have to install them extra. I have relatively zero experience in Mac, but if it doesn't read them, I'm sure it's not too hard to install a controller for NTFS disks. So that would be an option if you had to go back and forth to a Windows machine. Otherwise, I'm quite happy with EXT anything.
Yeah.
Well, Alan Pope said that Ubuntu-based, or at least Ubuntu itself, should be able to go both ways. They now have it, so it's pretty much. That's what he says.
Yeah, which is good. Anyone know the difference between ext3 and ext4? I don't know off the top of my head.
ext4 is an improvement over an ext3.
I mean, I know
about
that.
All I know.
All right, we don't know.
I believe ext4 stores will basically store caches of files in the system. Like, have you ever opened up have you ever seen one of those lost plus found files inside your drive there?
Yeah.
That's a feature of ext4 that basically backs up your data.
It was mostly speed improvements between ext3 and ext4, and I believe even from ext2 to 3 was mostly on the speed improvements as well. I don't think any of them are more reliable than the other, but there's definitely speed improvements on the file access times.
Yeah. So, there's some more discussion about the helium. Yeah, helium can be put into something because it's an inert gas. So, being an inert gas, if you fill up a sealed container with helium, nothing's going to react inside of it. In fact, even many of the noble gases actually can react under some circumstances, but helium, there's no known reactions of helium. So. Let's see. I think we've hit the bottom of the comments. Anything else we want to mention? Vince, I didn't mince anything on this article. I don't think I did, but.
I'm about to go, so I will see you guys later.
Right. Hey, we will see you later, Quint.
Later, Quint. Take care.
All right. All right. So I guess we'll kind of do some final words. So go ahead, Dan. Final words.
Back up, and then back up again. As far as the digital rot goes, I would be more concerned of the data actually getting in the wrong hands or getting somehow entangled with someone else's data. Otherwise, I don't use cloud services for anything.
Yep.
I keep everything in house.
Yeah, that's the most important.
That's all I
thing,
have to say about that.
Yeah. Keep things in house. Use services as sell them. Like I have my Nextcloud, but the Nextcloud I use it like Quint does, just for things that I need to share easily, and I keep it cleared off. I actually only gave myself 1 gigabyte of data, and so I just when it gets close to full, I make sure it's cleared out. Jesse, final thoughts.
Yeah, well, I'm all about my own hard backups and keeping data for myself. I'm really not big on cloud services, and much like you, the only time I'll use Google's Drive or Dropbox or whatever, and the sole purpose is because I need to share something quickly with somebody else, and I don't want to take the time to make them account on this, and and get their IP whitelisted on my router so it can access through to my storage and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, it's still, you can't be relying on third-party services for backup. And if you are, that's only one of your 3 backups, and it's industry standard to have 3 copies of any file, or it's pretty much a guarantee you will lose them eventually.
Yep.
I wouldn't even count cloud service as a backup. I would just count it as someplace you're putting something.
Yep, I would agree to that. So again, keep one of those copies not in your office. So I like the bank vaults. The reason is it's extraordinarily difficult to access the bank vault. And not to mention it's a giant sealed metal box inside a sealed metal tube inside a sealed metal box, which means that it is very protected against EMFs, anything like that. So, Vince, final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all good in terms of backups. We know what we're doing, but for anyone out there who's thinking about it, keep yourself organized. I mean, all my stuff is basically on maybe 3 or 4 folders that I keep. It's important, and so it's such a simple matter of just copying all that stuff over to wherever I need to back it up, and I'm done.
Absolutely.
I do it, maybe once a day, a couple of times a week. Keep yourself organized, and it makes life a lot easier. Have a system.
Yep.
Do it religiously, and you're sweet.
Schedule a day. So like on my backup day is it's usually like the first Monday of the month. Is kind of like backup day, so I don't plan on doing much other work, but everything gets backed up, and then within that day or so, within that week, I will take a trip to the bank vault and just recycle. So I'll have one master computer here. I have a portable drive here and a portable drive in the vault, and then back up everything religiously, swap things around, and then that way I always have the latest copies of everything. And then I do that for the websites for clients as well. So so pick your time, pick your date, have your redundancy, and keep on-site and off-site copies of everything. So that is important. I will be streaming on my other channel here at 9 o'clock, so that's a little over an hour. So if you want to jump on to my other channel, I'll go ahead and put a link down there. That is the Christian stuff, though. If you don't like that, you probably won't want to go, but you can check it out if you want. We are talking about over there, we're talking about this being the kids that are becoming adults now, or like the first kids growing up in the post-Christian America. So we're talking about that topic. So that'll be really fun, though. I'm looking forward to that one, but it'll be a cool show. So, with that, let's see. DistroTube jumped on. Greetings, DistroTube. How's it going, sir? All right. Let's see. Redundancy is king. Yep. Helium non-reaction is giving you a high-pitched voice. There you go. Yes. Helium non-reaction makes you talk like this. Yay! Yes, Chad. Build a NAS server, an in-house NAS. I built mine just with a microtower PC, just a Dell and Spirit microtower PC. You can build one off a Raspberry Pi as well, or you can build something insane like Jesse.
Any recommendations for a good?
Hey, now it's not that insane. I mean, it was relatively cheap, and it serves a very good purpose.
Yeah. For a good what, Vince?
NAS software.
I personally am using Open Media Vault just because I'm most comfortable in the Debian family. So it's everything is managed on a Debian web server. I think there's another
I just
good one
physically
from BSD, right?
I hear about FreeNAS. What's FreeNAS?
That's the one based on BSD. So I think that FreeNAS is one of the most popular ones as well. I don't have any personal experience with it, but yeah, it is. It is definitely good.
I opted to actually go proprietary for my NAS, for the software anyway. So I'm running Unraid on my NAS, and the sole reason that I did it that way was because at the time, and I don't think they do yet, but FreeNAS doesn't support any mechanism for expanding your array without having to actually dump your data to rebuild your array and then bring your data back. And it was important to me. I mean, I can't afford 20 8 terabyte hard drives to put in this thing at the same time, but I can afford 2. And I can afford another one now, but now what do I do when I add one? I don't have a place to put my data to be able to expand. So expandability was the reason I went proprietary for my NAS. I know the Linux guy going proprietary, but it was necessary for me.
Yeah, there's cases. DistroTubes asked, do you find the Pi limiting for NAS? I probably would find it limited depending on what you're needing it for. Just because, like my Pi specifically, I have a Raspberry Pi 2, and that only has USB 2 ports, and so I would not be able to stream anything effectively off of that. Transferring data would be very slow off of that, so I wouldn't go that route unless I had to for either serious space concerns or something like that. I would find it very limited because its system specs are very low. What might work better is the Fitlet PC that I run with my router. That's actually a lot more powerful and has gigabit ports. So yeah, I would probably not do it with the Pi unless you had to. And can I use SMB to work off of Windows? Yes. My servers are set up as SMB. So it runs perfectly fine on my Windows, on my Mac, and on my Linux. All my systems run perfectly fine off my NAS. Is it Rarley has never had his data stolen from his Abacus? That's good. Awesome. Okay, so if anyone have to recover files from a borked Windows OS, get a giggle out of that, yeah. Don't trust Raspberry Pis for important data or transferring large amounts. Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to think, what did I use Raspberry Pi for in the past? I do use my Raspberry Pi regularly for my open source media center. So it'll accept and play streaming just fine. I just wouldn't serve from it. I think that'd be... would be pretty low end. All right, I think we are going to wrap this guy up at this point. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. We will be back tomorrow with the news, some fun privacy news, and some very scary business news coming up tomorrow. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, this has been an active week.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out. Let me see. Do I have a cat running around? I have a cat that's being super cute over there. I mean, look at this. I'll show you guys the cat.
Oh, where's Barry? You gonna bark at the kitty? Is Barry gonna bark at the kitty?